Yo, 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 what's going on YouTube? It's your boy Nate the Great coming at you with another live. You already know if you're new to the channel, like, share, comment, and subscribe. To all the returning friends and family, you already know it's peace and blessing. I'm gonna give y'all some time to tune in case these notifications ain't go out. Serious, baby! Happy Thursday to everybody that's pulling in or in the bushes watching. Give y'all some time to tune in. Let me finish getting myself settled in to a degree. First things first, you already know. Hopefully, everybody having a blessed and productive Thursday. Hopefully, everybody smoothly getting through their work day. Hopefully, if you out with your families, hopefully you are enjoying yourselves with whatever events you got going on. For those in the city, it's a little bit humid, but not as humid as it's been. But shoot, tomorrow might be a different story. So, in the event you plan on going out, doing whatever, make sure you keep the bare necessities with you out there. Make sure you stay hydrated. If you're going to be on the beaches or in the pools or whatever, make sure you got the suntan lotion and all of that. Um, what I was looking at, it looked like those UVs are going to be high up there tomorrow. So don't want nobody getting sunburned or nothing. So just make sure y'all keeping yourself straight, keeping yourself situated. And hopefully the rest of y'all enjoying the summers. I know for some of y'all, kids go back to school next month. For those in the city and those in the neighboring areas of the city, we know kids go back in September. So yeah, we got another month of probably heat and whatever. But again, try to enjoy every minute, try to enjoy every blessing, you know, try to make the best of your summer too while you can. If you got family you need to go visit, or if you got people you need to check up on, make sure you're doing that. Um, Appreciate everybody that tuned in for the conversation Tuesday. Definitely was a great discussion. Definitely was something that was needed. Shout outs to everybody that was a part of the conversation. And for those that missed it, you could definitely catch the replay. I was supposed to do this live yesterday, but got wrapped up as far as work and everything else was concerned. So also just needed the day off. Sometimes I'm gonna be honest with you, especially for you content creators, you gotta take some time off. Take some time, take some steps back, get yourself realigned and focused, and just come back and do what you gotta do. But it definitely was a great conversation, and I appreciate all of y'all that was a part of it. Um, Today I'm gonna keep it kind of light, kind of simple. I wanna reiterate on something I was talking about a while back. Um, and this is a public service announcement, especially for those who might be in situations where they need people to care for them. Um, the one thing you should remember, and I'm gonna say this: it doesn't matter if you're in a wheelchair, doesn't matter if you got a walker, doesn't matter what the situation is. If you are blessed and lucky to have family that's willing to help you through your journey and your process, please do this biggest favor and just return the favor. You know, Make sure that you know send those appreciations where it counts. Because you gotta always remember this. Just because you're going through a certain situation, that doesn't mean everybody is at fault. You know, some of you are lucky again because you got people who won't give two shits about you. Excuse my language, but they won't. They won't care about your overall well being. They won't care if you're good or not. But when you got those who are willing, or you got those who are sacrificing their own free will and well being to try to help you, you give thanks, and you give the credit where it's due. Um, Had a situation happen recently with somebody, and I had to break that down to them as well. I told them, you lucky that you know, you got a niece and a nephew that's willing to help you, and the least you could do is show that gratitude and appreciation because they both didn't have to sacrifice certain things to sit around and help you. You know, especially when they wasn't the ones that got you in that situation in the first place. Um, it is important again to show the love, show the gratitude when it's needed. You know, never disrespect them, never throw them under the bus, and you definitely don't sit here and act like they supposed to just do something. You know, and that's where some people get messed up. You know, that sense of entitlement. Um, you know, once you don't check certain things, and I'm gonna say this for those that need to hear it, when you don't set boundaries and you don't check certain situations, you're gonna have people who feel like they're entitled to say and do whatever to you. You never let that happen. It doesn't matter if it's friends, family, whoever. You know, especially if you're the one that's doing a good deed. You know, because you don't necessarily have to. You know, you could allow that family member to suffer, or you know, serious baby. Give me a one in the chat if you can hear me. Just give me a one in the chat if you can hear me. I know sometimes the microphone be acting a little iffy. Um, but yeah, you know, again, you show the love and gratitude when you're supposed to. Yep, and there we go. Look, we start already with the noise pollution. Okay, no doubt. Appreciate you, serious baby. Had to make sure. I know sometimes the thing be acting up. I know, but yeah, you know, the main thing to remember is that again, you know, these people are taking time out of their busy schedules. Some of them are taking time out of their busy lives. Some of these people are actually pushing things that they already have in motion to the side because they want to make sure that you're straight. They want to make sure you're good. So again, you don't never disrespect them. You don't never, you know, get out of character. And again, just be thankful because you got to be honest. There are some people out there right now who they family don't give two hells about them, and this, you know, and no, and that's a problem. You know, it should never get to a point where you just stop caring about things. You know, but you know there are some people out there that won't take the time and effort to make sure their families are straight. You know, some of them are selfish. So you know, when you got somebody that's willing to do what's necessary, you know, you do what you're supposed to do. You know, I had to break that down to somebody, and this goes for anybody that could be going through it. Set your boundaries, and also let it be known that look, I'm here for you. But the minute I feel like you're not, you know, reciprocating the same thing, or you're not showing the same gratitude, that's going to be a problem. You know how many people right now wish they had family members or wish they had close friends that could, you know, help them do some of the things that they need help with, especially those in the wheelchair. You know, again, it's not easy trying to do certain things when you're physically handicapped. You know, so when you do have people who are willing to help, let them help you the best way. You know, and again, don't take it for granted. You know, you be thankful and be blessed, and you thank that higher power that you know the people are here for you. You know, that's the true definition of love and support. You know, making sure that regardless to what, you know, your peoples understand that everything is good, you know, because it's not easy to be honest with you. It's not easy trying to help somebody when they can't help themselves, you know. But if you're willing to do that, even being a home health aide, prime example, you're going to be a home health aide, make sure you're doing what you need to do, especially when it is dealing with family. Bud Files, what's going on? What's going on? You know, and that's what I'm saying. You know, it's some people with this entitlement. Oh, well, you supposed to just do that. Oh, well, you need to do this, and you no, they don't need to do nothing, and not supposed to do nothing outside of take care of yourself and take care of the things you need to take care of. But you know, you have some people that really don't understand that, and or don't understand the severity of it until it's too late. You know, and that's the one thing. You know, again, you have to be mindful. because people could be moving on and doing bigger and better things, but they chose to sit back and help you. One thing you should never do is try to get violent or get crazy out of line, cursing and being disrespectful towards them. Because even that right there turns somebody off or make them look at you sideways. And in some instances, shoot, the minute you decide to do that, you know, all bets is off. Everything will be out the door. So, again, you just gotta give praises where it's due. Also, make sure that you doing the right things. But you also gotta try to help yourself too. You know, if somebody is willing to sit back and help you with the hardest times and help you through your hardest times, you know, show the best admiration that you can. Prime example, I was going through some dark times even while I was doing content on here. And I always gave praise and love to those who sat back and listened, those who actually sat back and gave some good advice, and I don't take that for granted. You know, I actually love and appreciate even the ones on the back end that fuck with me, even the ones that know me personally. You know, they have been here, they have given some good advice, and they've also just made sure that a boy was uplifted. And I think that's important nowadays. Again, it's about uplifting the ones that actually need it. Checking in on the ones who are strong but still need somebody to check in on. You know, yeah, we all could be as strong as possible, but in certain days, we are going to need that extra. Hey, how you doing? Hope all is well. We need that. Because again, we go through a lot as well too. We might not show it on the surface. Sometimes we might repress it to a degree, but shoot, sometimes it's best to do that. Let me check on this person, make sure everything is everything. You know, just a quick, simple checkup. Nothing wrong with that. You know, even if it's 5 minutes out your day, like I said one time before, all it takes is 5 minutes out your day, if that, just to check in and make sure everything is everything. See, prime example with me, I try to check in with those who've always been real with me and been checking in with me. You know, even if it's only 5 minutes out the day, like I said, it's better than not checking in at all. I done had some situations where I try to check in on as many people as possible, especially the people that I grew up with. Some of these people, you know, we still keeping in contact, we still, doing the things we supposed to be doing, which is keeping the friendships and keeping everything strong. Some of my peoples wasn't lucky. Some of my peoples I didn't get a chance to, you know, hang out with or do anything with because they untimely passed away. I had people who right now, if they was alive, they would be happy with the things that has happened because there's been a change and a growth in me from the time I was young and dumb to now. And I know they would be proud of the things that I've been doing, the things that I've accomplished, the things that I'm trying to accomplish, you know. And I kind of wish they would be here too for the celebration. So again, you never know what's what when it comes down to your friends or your family. So always make sure you're trying to check in. Ah, shoot, I did it again. My bad. Thank you, Sirius. I thought I had to suck up. Dang. Pay attention to my phone again. Shoot. That's the truth, though. You have to check in on your friends and family, even the strongest ones. You know, it feels good sometimes to hear from those people, or just feels good to get a text from those people and knowing that everything is good. I got a few people I got to check in on after this live, because, I haven't heard much, or, I just want to make sure everything is good. That's another thing. Even if they don't pass away, you don't want to hear something about they in the hospital sick, or, they dealing with certain situations and ailments. You want your people to be at least in tip top shape, or at least just, you know, good overall. And I think that's the most important part, trying to do the simplest things, like again, uplift those who need it. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just showing your humanity and that's just showing your overall growth. But it's also showing that you are true to what you say, you know. Because with your good friends, you never know what could happen. You know, things could be good one minute, things could be bad the next. Like a while back, y'all already heard me say something about I lost not just a dear friend, but I lost what what was considered my god brother. You know, and he had only just turned 38 years old. Like I told somebody, you don't know how long you got on this earth, but while you are here, you try to do as much as possible. You try to live your best life. You know, the main thing to remember too is try to live it stress free as possible. I know sometimes it's not going to be easy, but try to eliminate some of the things that are going to cause the stress because stress will definitely take a toll on you, not just mentally or spiritually, but physically. I knew some people who was going through the utmost stress and they went from being solid or being big bone to almost looking like a dope fiend, you know, and that's not a good look. It's definitely not a good look. That's why I say try to eliminate as much stress as possible. Do the things that are gonna keep you on the up and up. Do things that are gonna keep you happy. You know, do things overall that's gonna keep it solid. Appreciate you, serious baby. And it still hurts because it's been a couple months since he been gone. But I know in my overall vision, he lived and tried to live the best life possible. You know, when you got people who mostly stay to themselves, or you got people who don't do big crowds, and you got people that just love just to be around whoever they need to be around. That's always a good feeling. You know, But like I said, you don't know how long you're gonna be here. And you got some people who didn't even get a chance to live past a certain age anyway. So you gotta think about that as well too. There's some people who didn't even get a chance to fully live life and had it taken away from them, or they lost it due to unfortunate circumstances like medical diseases and things along those lines. So again, you want to try to live your best life. You definitely want to try to make sure that if you got the right people around you, to keep them around you. Try to make sure that they good as well too. You know, multiple ways to do so. But one thing I will say is that if you don't try to get in control of certain things or try to get in front of certain things, um, you're gonna have a hard time, as far as your health is concerned. Like I said, try to keep your stress to a bare minimum if you can, and just again overall try to live your best life. I know sometimes you could be stressed out depending on what the situation is. Like I know it's stressful when you probably just lost a job or you probably lost some hours or things are just not panning out the way it should. But sometimes you just gotta still keep your faith strong and just know that what you're going through now is just temporary. Things will definitely look up and get better. And the best thing I can say for some is don't repress or hold back none of that stress and don't hold back none of that anger. Whatever you might be feeling, let it out. For some that need to hear this, if you don't have a support system, you got to try to find one or build one. You can't just continue to be stressed out and live with all of that stress. Prime example, I had some people yesterday. I know a couple of them was feeling a type of way because they lost grandparents, and that's a hard feat when you lose both of your grandparents, or lose any of your parents or just family members in general. I know everybody grieves differently. I know everybody deals with that, different ways. East Dad, what's going on, my guy? But in the same token, you need a support system. Some things, yeah, you might have to do on your own, But there's other things that you are supposed to have a support system. And I think that is critical and important. You know, don't don't sit here and just hold it in. Don't sit back and just allow it to fester and start eating at you. Some people will start getting into that depression mode, and the first thing they start doing is leading right to the alcohol. I had to tell somebody yesterday. I can understand, you feel the type of way because you lost close, relatives, and it's different, you know, especially when those are the remaining grandparents. But the same token, you can't fall down a certain hole, you know, like doing too much excessive drinking, knowing that you already are kind of going through certain medical things. It's not a good look because you're breaking down your body, you know. And when it's all said and done, like I said, if you don't want to be up out of here earlier, or if you don't want to be up out of here before time, try to take care of yourself the best way possible. It's critical, you know. It's critical that people again just start doing that. Get back to loving yourself. Get back to doing what's necessary for you, and also do what's necessary for the people around you. You know, some of y'all have to remember, even when you lose somebody, you're always still going to have people around you or people near you that love and care for you. So, you got to take everything step by step and day by day. You know, I know sometimes it's easier said than done, but it can be done. I'm a prime example. I lost a lot around me these last couple years. You know, shoot, I'm gonna be honest with you. I lost a lot over the last almost 13 years. Since 2012, I took a lot of losses. I took some losses on family, close friends, all of that. And the only thing I could do was just keep my head high and do what was necessary, and keep passing on what I need to pass on and just keep the torch going for those ones who couldn't beat it. At one point I was in a deep depression, and it started to show. And once I noticed that, I realized, I said, you know what? I can't continue to move like this. So I got myself up. I got myself back to doing what I was doing. I'm still doing what I'm doing right now, you know. And it feels good because again, that the people that are not here are actually happy and proud that you're trying to live your best life and you're trying to do what's necessary, you know, and that you didn't forget them and you kept the memories together, you know. Like I'm coming up on the anniversary. One of my homegirls, that was like my birthday twin. Lost her a couple years ago, and still to this day don't really know what all happened. But, again, these people would be happy and these people would be definitely, in a good solid place because they know that they got their peoples still riding and still doing what's necessary, you know. And I think that's critical and important. Again, when you take a loss, you got to remember, you know, you still are you still are living, you still are breathing. So try to make everything happen. Try to do as much as possible. But never live in fear. And that's what some people will do too. Some people will live in fear because of losing people. But you got to remember, at some point, we all gonna have to go to the upper echelon. But while you here, try to live. You know, and when you know you're able to do certain things, get out and go do it. You know, never settle for less, never sell yourself short. You just do what's necessary. No doubt, East Dad, you already. But it's the truth. You're supposed to take step by step and day by day. Every day that you breathing, every day that you above ground, you take it for what it is. You have to make the best out of your life. You can't just sit back and wait for life to fall in your lap. You know, Never get too comfortable. It's important to do so. Um, Also, again, even if you are taking care of yourself health wise, make sure your mental health is where it need to be, because you're gonna go through some real rainy, stormy days. But you try to take every step the way you take it. And the only thing you can do, things that are out of your control, you just pray and you know ask for some healing strength, and from there you just keep pushing. Because regardless to what, even when somebody is gone, the world is not going to stop. The world still just keeps spinning. So try to do as much as possible. You know, and definitely make sure that whatever you have on your list of goals that you want to try to achieve, you try to achieve them the best way possible. And the things that you can achieve right now, it might not be meant for you to achieve those things right then and there. So don't stress out. Don't try to rush the process. Just let things flow naturally. The minute you do so, you know, you'll start relieving some of the stress that you might be going through. Because some of y'all are stressed out because you feel like you might not be where you want to be at, or you feel like things are not taking off the way it should take off. But at some point, they will. If you keep a positive mindset and an attitude, and you just keep focusing on your goal, some of your goals could be achieved. And when they are, now the only thing you got to do is just keep those goals intact. You know, Always keep that as a mental note. I said I planned on doing this. I ended up doing this. Now, what do I do after I get there? Once you get to your goal, you don't stop. You keep pushing forward. You know, that's why I said there's some people right now who just sitting back and withering their life away instead of saying, you know what, I'm still here, I'm still grieving. Let me try to get out and do something. Let me try to get out amongst the fam, or let me try to get out and just overall live. When you sitting in a house or sitting somewhere cooped up all day, you're not living. You just sitting back, wasting time. And that's the one thing you can't get back is time. So, try to do as much as possible. Also, like I mentioned in the previous live for some of y'all, just be careful of your interactions with people. Make sure you aligning yourself up with the right type of people that fit not just your overall goal and mindset, but just align yourself with people who want to see you do good. Align yourself with people who are always going to keep you in a positive spirits, even when you're down. That is critical and important, especially towards having support. And even when you feel like you can't discuss certain things with certain people, you find that one person or find whoever who is willing to listen and willing to let you vent, or willing to just listen, because it is important. Exactly, serious. You gotta live life to the fullest. You gotta take what's given to you, or take what was here, and just make it better. It's really about it. I can understand. Yeah, it's hurtful. And definitely hits hard when it's close friends and family that pass on. But you got to remember too, they was here. They wouldn't want you to be stuck or want you to be stagnant. They would want you to try to be out there and do your best. So just remember that part too. You know, like I said, it's never easy especially when it is friends and family. But you got to remember too, life does move on. Life will not stand still just because you had people that passed on. And you got to be willing to say, well, shoot, while I'm still here, let me try to do what I could do. Let me see what's out there. Let me try to see what I can offer, not just to myself, but the world around me. You know, and for some of y'all, it ain't really hard to do because you already have some of the right things in order. Got a support system, got people who are willing to be there and listen. You got people who are willing to keep encouraging and not bash you. And I know for sometimes it's hard for some people to try to express what they're feeling, but at some point you're gonna have to express that feeling. You're gonna definitely have to do what's necessary. Again, just something to think about, at least for the day. That's just something to think about. Get yourself right. If you feel like you ain't mentally there, try to get yourself there. You know, and just again remember, you know, the goal at hand is to try to write your write your book of life. You know, it should include some real interesting things, some good, some bad, some in between. You know, but also, remembering the life lessons. You know, you got to remember that some things are not always going to pan out the way you want it to pan out. But just because it doesn't mean you should quit. You know, and when you feel like for a fact certain things just ain't going to be in the works for you, you got to learn to accept it and move forward. And again, just have a plan B. And that's the most important thing. Again, is having a plan B, no matter what it is you're doing in life. Because plan A might be going good for a minute, but if something happens and plan A is no longer in the books, what you gonna do afterwards? You know, like prime example, you had some people who was playing sports, and the minute they realized they wasn't going to be able to play sports no more, they found something else that they could do. Because that's the thing, when you used to doing something and then now with something you have to stop, some people will get into a real deep depression because this was something that they was happy with. This is something that they wanted to do for as long as they could do it. Some people will be lucky to, you know, play and do certain things as far as the sports is concerned. Some people will be lucky and get that little longevity. Others ain't gonna get that. But for those that don't get that, again, just remember, life is not over just because that one thing stopped. You know, just keep doing what's necessary. We have to count our blessings and not take anything for granted. Life is beautiful. Don't over facts. You're never supposed to over process certain things. The things that are out of your control, the most you can do, like I said, is pray, try to get a better understanding, heal from it, and then move forward. You know, like prime example, when you have people that pass on, you gotta heal. You gotta let all that stuff go, and you gotta heal. Regardless to what, you have to heal. You have to take that time necessary to get yourself and get your spirit right. You know, and the minute you realize that, or the minute that you get into that mind state, things will start moving forward. And that's the truth too. You know, some still learn the process of life. But the goal for life is try to add as much positive as you can into it. You can't always just add negative into your life force because at some point everything will fall downhill. That's just like hanging around a group of people who all they do is argue, fight, and just commit all sorts of stupidity that would drown a regular person down. Nah, you got to get up out of that because at some point all that energy going to rub off on you, especially if you have that much of a positive spirit. You know, and I think that is critical again. Just learn from these things and move forward. Sometimes you're gonna have to put yourself in a different mind state. And again, just love what you're doing. If you're doing things right, or if you're doing things that is bringing you peace and balance, continue to do that. You know, nobody should be knocking you off your swivel. Nobody should be trying to dictate to you how how you move in life and how you decide to turn the wheels in life. That's solely up to you. You know, one thing I will say too is again, try to put yourself in a different environment, in a different space. You'll see the changes and the differences. Like I said, if you've been around negative people all this time, get yourself around some positive people and see how things turn out. Trust me, you'll see a big difference. You'll see it's not as stressful. You'll see that it's definitely, you know, worth definitely worth, continuing moving in life and doing what you need to do for life. You know, facts, serious. You know, you have to take life by the horns, and you definitely got to just shoot. You got to ride this bus to the wheels fall off, like how other people would say. Ride this motherfucker to the wheels fall off, and that's what you're supposed to do. That's not just a metaphor. That's also a key for life. You know, again, doing what's necessary. You know, again, if you got things you're trying to accomplish, things you're really trying to do, you set your focus on it. You make sure you get out there and go do it. And when it's all said and done, trust me, the things that you put in place, the things that you really want to take care of, and the things that you feel you could, achieve will be achieved. Just a symbol of that's a symbol of life too. Doing what you can and creating all forms of possibilities for your life. It's important. You know, not everybody gonna be able to grab you by the hands all the time. So you gotta strap up your boots and be ready to go. For some of y'all, if you haven't been out and about, especially like prime example on a day like today, get outside, go get some fresh air, go enjoy the weather. Who knows what you might get into? You know, and I would say that for anybody, whether you're single, married, whatever. You blessed to still be above ground. Take every minute of each day and just do what's necessary. And again, you'll see the difference in the change. But even when you go through your toughest times, again, just remember you're not alone in the battle or the struggle. And if you feel you are alone, try to find somebody who's willing to be there, and help you through them stages. Because we all gonna need help as far as trying to get back to our better place. James number 8, what's going on, my guy? For those that just tuned in, y'all make sure you hit that like button. But you're always gonna need somebody that's gonna be willing and ready you know, to help you pick up the pieces. And again, that is important, making sure that you have the right set of people or at least the right person that's going to be there for you. That's important. Some people might not think it is, but it is because it might be some things you're not going to be able to deal with on your own. You're going to definitely need some form of advice or some form of uplifting. And once it gets to that point, hey, you already know what it is. And I know for some people it could be hard, because again, there's some things you might not be willing to accept. But I think the minute you start accepting certain things for what it is, you can move forward and know that regardless to what, you're doing what's necessary. You're doing not just the bare minimum, but you're taking the maximum steps into getting back to a good state of mind. When you do fall into those deep depressions, it's always good to have somebody that's going to hear you out. Because again, they might offer some form of advice or they might say something that's going to be very, very critical, but also they're going to say something that's going to be crucial for your upbringing, you know. And when they do give you that solid advice, you take the time out and listen to it. You know, really is important. And that's what I'm saying. You got to think about it. You have some people who didn't get a chance to fully live life, or you have some people who was living life and it got cut short due to, certain circumstances. But, you're still here. You're still breathing. You still have time and opportunity to try to make things work. Give your praises where it's due. You know, like I said, for every day that you wake up and breathe, you should be thanking the higher power for that, because you could be laying 6 feet deep, or you could be laying in a hospital. You got some people right now who are laying in a vegetable state right now. You don't know if they're going to make it or not. In some instances, some of those people who are laying in a vegetable state end up pulling through it. Others don't, you know. So again, try to, you know, make the best and do the best, you know. But again, just be careful with your interactions. That's another thing I'm gonna keep saying. Some of y'all got to be careful of the interactions and the people that you keep around, or the people that you are in contact with. Because sometimes these people don't mean you well. You might think they mean you well, but they honestly don't. So, in order to avoid some of that stress and headache and BS, you just gotta know when to cut certain things off. Once you start seeing certain things ain't looking on the up and up, especially on the positive note, you know, get rid of it. Like I said before, you get rid of toxic things and you get rid of things that are not meaning you nowhere, you will start seeing the difference in things. You'll be less stressed out. You'll be, you'll be in a better mind state. You'll know who exactly is for you and who's not for you. You know. A happy heavenly birthday to your moms, James. You already know, man. And happy heavenly birthday to any. Every time it gets near these days, it still feels like a punch to the gut. But I also know that she's happy that her baby boy is, fully doing everything possible. You know, employment, trying to do bigger and better things, and just staying on the up and up. Again, we got to remember that even when our people's gone and pass on, we still got a life to live. We still got things we need to do. You know, we don't want our book of life to be we was just here, and just wasting time. Like I said, the more time some of you waste, that's time you can't get back. 6 9 baby. What's going on, sis? It's been a minute. Hope all well with you. And that's what I'm saying. Check in, like I said earlier, check in on those who need checking in on. It don't have to be every day, but at least check in and make sure that they straight. Make sure that they mental space is good. Make sure that they spiritual space is good. You know, like I said, you don't know how good it feels when those people hear from you or you hear from them. So again, Miss Chicago, baby. That's the thing. Because you don't know what could be around that corner. You don't know what is going to transpire. But again, you want to make sure that all your right peoples is in the right state of mind, you know, or at least you want to make sure that they good all in all. You know, there's nothing worse than you getting that phone call or you finding out later on down the line that some of these people you was looking for, or some of these people you was trying to check in on, done passed on. It makes you look at life different. Yeah, I mean, it hurts. it's definitely gonna hurt. But the one thing I can't seem to do is question anything. I could have did a whole lot of questioning with my mom's past, but I didn't. Because I know the one thing is that that higher power has that book set up a certain way, and I can't question that. You know, the most I could do is just say, you know, hopefully she's looking out, and hopefully you looking out for her as well too. So you know, that's why it's important. You always check in on the ones that you need to check in on. Doesn't matter how strong or how weak. You know, you just take your time out today. Hey, what's going on? Hope all is well with you. How you and the family doing? You know, things along those nations. Again, it's not just a good deed. It's good for your spirit. Appreciate you for dropping those links, serious baby. Working hard in this damn air conditioner, baby. But yeah, you know, I think it's important again, you know, and especially if you are out there and you got kids, grandkids, you know, try to live your life. Try to live your life to the most fullest, you know. Love, baby, baby. You know, and if you are blessed and lucky to have those things right then again, you love every moment of that. You know, don't take that for granted. Just do what's necessary. You know, keep creating memories and strong bonds, and just remember that again. You know, it could always be a lot worse. You know, for those who are blessed and lucky to have what they need to have in life, you know, continue to keep living your fullest and keep trying to achieve whatever you feel your goals call for. You know, you try not to dwell on things that are out of your control because some people will. But I always said this: when you dwell over things that are out of your control, you put yourself in a deeper bind. You know, some things you're not going to be able to control. The most you can do is accept it. Like I said, pray, be strong, heal from it, and move forward. Like I said, Mother's Day made it. Mother's Day made it the what the third year? Yeah, Mother's Day made it the third year that my other grandmother had passed on. 4th of July made it same thing. 3 years since my pops passed. So you know, my thing overall is, you know, yeah, I took some hits and some losses, but I also gained strength and even more wisdom and even more empowerment to just keep moving forward, keep making these people proud. You know, that's all we got to do a lot of times. You know, we just got to live our best lives and not let certain things hinder us from doing so. You know, like I said, I know everybody deals and grieves differently, but you also got to remember too, you're not alone. You're gonna always have people who could relate to what you're going through because they went through it. You know, so you know, you just gotta have that great support system. That's all. Appreciate you, serious baby. Yeah, I know she's happy, and that's my fuel and motivation every day I get up. Everything I'm doing is not just for myself. I'm doing things that are necessary for those who I lost. My closest friends, one of my boys who was like my brother, like literally almost like my brother, you know. And I'm quite sure he's even happy. You know, that's why I said when you have the time frame to do so, get out and go enjoy yourself. If you can link up with these people, go link up with them. If you can't, try to schedule on another day, you know. But the main thing again, take 5 minutes out your day just to check in on those people. The close ones that you really love and care for, take that time out. Make sure they're straight, you know, and vice versa. Make sure that, you know, the love and the respect and everything is being well reciprocated. You know, you'll have some people that say, "Oh, I'm here for you, I'm here for you," but then when you really need them, they ain't there. And those are the ones sometimes you gotta, you know, probably look at like, okay, well, let's see what happens the next time around. I go through something. Let's see if they're gonna be there. You know, and if these people can't be here for you like you here for them, then that should tell you something right then and there. That's something I learned well after my mom's passed. I learned that again, those same people that sit here and try to fake a funk and say that, here if you need anything, yada yada yada. When it came down to it, the people wasn't in. And the ones that you wasn't expecting to be there was the ones that came through. Or the ones that you thought was gonna be too busy to be there for you, they came through. So again, you check in on the main ones that definitely mean you well and want to see you do well. I try to check in with everybody that I know I can check in with, you know, especially the ones I hold dear to me. So I think that's something important for some of y'all, man. You know, I know we go through a lot, you know. Oh, before I even go deeper, R.I.P. Hulk Hogan, R.I.P. Malcolm Jamal Warner, and R.I.P. Ozzy Osbourne. Yeah, it seemed like this week it been hitting in threes as far as the celebrities is concerned. Um, and even still, regardless to what, these are still human beings. Regardless to their status, these are still human beings that's leaving behind families, and it's not easy, you know. Just like right now, it's like three people right now that passed on in my neighborhood, and these is people I'm used to seeing every day. So now it's going to be even more eerie not seeing those people. But also make sure you checking in on those ones. Make sure that they families are straight, especially if you rock out with them. Make sure everything good. You know, I got one person that I know for a fact that one post that I seen is somebody in their family. So if I don't hit them up, I'm definitely gonna see them outside and I'm gonna make sure they're good. Because again, when you got close ties like that, the one thing you don't want to do is have people saying, "Well, damn, I thought we was cool, but here it is. I'm going through a loss, and you ain't even check up." So it tells me the hidden truth. As long as you have something to give them, they're there. Just when you at your worst, you don't see them. Facts. You know. And for those people that might not have gone through something like that yet, when you do realize that shit, um, that's when you start doing your evaluations on things. Like even down to just regular support. If you see that the people ain't supporting you, in certain ways and certain aspects, you just gotta know where to go from there. The one thing I'm gonna always try to do is try to support you, whether it's financially or not. And a lot of times, if I can't support you financially in some ways or some forms, there's substitutes for that. Because again, I give you my time, I give you my lending ear, I give you all of that. You know, and some people have to realize that too. It's not always just about what somebody gives you or what somebody does for you as far as the financial parts, because some people get that shit twisted. It's about how this person treats you overall. If this person is still continuing to treat you the best way and treat you like family, or treat you like a close friend, or treat you like everything else, then hey, you love and respect that. Because it's hard to come across that, especially nowadays. Some people are only as loyal as they next meal. So, you just got to remember when you do have the right type of people around you, when you do have the right support, you definitely give the praises and the thanks where it's due. The main goal again is this making sure that you are trying to live life as comfortable as possible, without the stresses, without the headaches, and without the back and forth nonsense. The one thing you don't want to do is be arguing with somebody and that be the last time you hear from that person. Because I can remember one of my friends went through that a couple years ago. They was kind of falling out with a friend. You know, he was really going back and forth. I figured, I said, all right, they had a little argument. They'll be back to talking and laughing and joking tomorrow. But that next day was a whole game changer because that person ended up passing away. Car accident, you know. And my boy felt bad because, again, you know, he felt bad because that wasn't the way they was trying to do it. You know, not arguing. That's the one thing you always want to do is remember that regardless to what, you never want to leave off on a bad note or any form of stress and aggravation with somebody because you never know how it's going to take a toll on somebody. You know, my friend's still kind of eating himself up to this day, but I got to keep reminding him, look, bro, you know, you wasn't expecting that like nobody was expecting that. But you can't dwell on that neither. You know, sit back, say your prayers, sit back and talk to that person, you know, and try to heal the best way possible. Didi, baby. I hear you serious. I mean, we all are like that, one way or another. You know, I have my moments when I feel like I'm a father and a grandfather sometimes. Shit, but I gotta remember too, you know, I can't tell people what to do. I can't tell people how to live. Most I can do is try to be there for you and give you the best advice possible and just continue to be a solid person, you know. But once you remember that you're still a solid person and you're still gonna always rock out with those people, you know, you good. You know, it's not bad to be overly concerned at times, especially when you think it could be something wrong. But then there's also times you just got to fall back. You know, I tell people sometimes I don't get into certain things because there's no need for me to get into it. You know, if it's not worth it or if it's not going to lead to anything positive, there's no need for me to get into it. In some situations, I fall back from because I feel like this. If two people are going at it, I don't care how close I am with you. Y'all gonna have to figure it out. You know, you know what it is too. It's not so much as a character flaw because we all gonna have our moments again where we are overly concerned for our friends and family. But we also gotta know exactly when to turn that button off, and we also just gotta know who's really worthy of that and who's not. You know, because some people ain't really worthy of that over concern and care because if they don't care for themselves, if they don't care to do whatever, then why should you? You know, a prime example, I was trying to help somebody out here a couple years ago. They was coming to me crying about, yo, I'm trying to get into your job. You think you could try to pull some plugs? And I almost did. I almost got them in there. And when I told them, like, listen, you know, they willing to do whatever in particular, and then that person just turned around and said, oh, no, I'm good. I ain't worried about it. I got something. I said, okay, cool. Well, if that don't work, you already know to come hit me up. And then come to find out, motherfucker lied. Motherfucker ain't getting nothing. He just ain't want to do nothing. So when it come to people like that, I'll stay far away from you because if you ain't willing to try to help yourself as well, I could only help you but so much. You know? Paragua, baby. Damn it. I had you wrenched up. I gotta get you back, sis. Don't worry. I gotta get you back. Cause I thought you was already you was wrenched up. It just been a minute, I know. That's what I be talking about with YouTube and all that other shit, taking away wrenches from people that was already wrenched up. Hope all is well with you though, sis. Um, but definitely make sure I fix that later. Definitely. Um, you know, just and for those that's in the shadows watching, it'd be good if some of y'all come out the shadows so I can make sure the ones that are wrenched up are still wrenched up. You know, I be trying to just keep everything in order the way I'm supposed to, you know, because again, if you got a wrench for me, it's not just because I'm giving you a wrench. It's because I solidly trust you with shit, you know. I'm doing good. I'm staying cool. Today is actually a little bit humid. Like the last few days for those in the city, y'all know The last few days, it actually been feeling like we back to school. It kind of cool, especially going towards the nighttime. It feel like you need a light sweater on and everything else, but apparently tomorrow we gonna get back to some real humidity again. This summer has been a back and forth summer. Like we've had some weeks where it's been extremely hot, humid, and then the sun has been beaming like a mug. And then we also had some days where it feel like we back to school. It's quiet, it's cool at night. Those days I could deal with. Prime example again for those who might be getting out, going to the beaches or the pools or whatever it is you're doing. Make sure you keep some water on you. Make sure you keep that suntan and just try to keep yourself cool and hydrated as possible. Yeah, the weather bipolar, you know that, but in New York City, when ain't the fucking weather bipolar? Even during the spring, the winter, all of that. Shit, we done had some winters where it was days where we done reached almost 70, and it's like, wait a minute, it ain't supposed to be this hot, or we ain't supposed to be this high in temperature, you know? But nonetheless, try to enjoy every moment of your summer, you know? For those that might be working the third shift, like how your boy is right now, you know, sometimes you're going to be tired, but make sure you're getting that rest. And if you still plan on doing things, especially if you know you might have to work the following night, try to get out early and do whatever is possible. You know, again, the goal is to try to live the best life and do what's possible. One thing I am going to say too, and I'm going to reiterate on something I talked about a couple lives ago. And I'm going to say this again for some of you parents out there. Because last night we almost had a situation while I was at work. And it could have got bad. Not for me, but it could have got bad for these young ones. I'm going to say for those who have teenagers or preteens. After 2, 3 in the morning, they asses should be in the house. I don't care what you talking about. I don't care if you upset about what I'm saying. Shoot. To be honest, I can't say I care less. I care more because again, tired of hearing stories of young ones being out here all hours of the night and they end up getting into something they can't get out of. Last night it could have been a bad situation. I had a group of teens that decided they wanted to try to mess with a vending machine near my job. My thing is, it's 3 in the morning. Why are you still out and about and why are you causing havoc when it's been quiet all night? This is what I'll be saying about some of you parents. Why do you think just because your kid is getting into a preteen or a teenage stage that they grown? They still supposed to have a curfew. They still supposed to have a set time to come in, even during the summer. Because again, there's nothing going on in these streets after 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, but nonsense and danger. It could have got worse for them because guess what? You don't know what's going on right now. You know, again, we got people out here who are mentally ill and disturbed, and they could be out here doing things, and they could be a danger again to themselves and to your kids. If your kid ends up, God forbid, getting attacked while they on the train trying to come home or trying to go wherever, whose fault is that? Who's it going to lie on when it's all said and done? It's going to lie on you, the parents, because again, your kid is under 18. Why are they out and about all hours of the night? It seems like when you get into a certain generation, like right now, you got kids that's even younger than 12 out and about. Like one night in particular, I was having an issue on a job. I had to do something manually. You wouldn't believe how many kids was outside on their scooters, and none of them kids look over the age of 9, 10 years old. Again, some of y'all have gotten to this point of allowing a government or allowing these people to tell you how to raise your children instead of you just being a good parent and raising your child. Common sense would tell you, my child is under the age of 18. If my child is not involved in some form of sports, if my child is not part of some form of activity where they are going to be coming home late, why are they coming home all hours of the night? Some of them are sleeping throughout the whole day. Then when they do come out, it's like they doing the same late night routine. Come on there. It's getting real dangerous out here. And then think about it. Some of y'all was crying and moping when we had that situation with the migrants and everything, and all of these crimes and attacks that was happening. It's still happening to a degree now, but it's not as bad as it once was. But that's still a danger. Because now, God forbid, what happens if your child decides they're getting on a train late trying to come home? And God forbid, one of them gets sexually attacked, or one of them get physically attacked, or one of them, God forbid, gets unalive. How you want to handle that? How are you going to? How you want to be able to say, oh, how you going to say that it's somebody else's fault when it's all said and done? It's your fault. I don't care if you both are working. I don't care if you're not working. Your children shouldn't be out all hours of the night. But you know what? I blame some of the parents too, again, because some of you parents is out here hanging out all hours of the night, having your kids in the park all hours of the night. Your kids should be set to sleep at a certain time. Should be no reason why sometimes you don't even see, like, prime example today. And I was saying this, no, not even today. Well, shoot, to a degree right now, yeah. I went out for a little bit this afternoon early. I didn't see not a lick of kids outside. Now on the basketball court, not nothing. And today is not super hot. There's actually a pretty decent breeze going on today. It's not as humid. You don't see a lick of kids, not even the teens outside playing ball, doing anything. But you'll see a bunch of them hanging around in certain buildings, or you see them hanging around in certain areas. And the only thing they seem to be worried about is smoking, drinking, and trying to be grown. And that's another thing we got to start remembering. We got to remember some of the things we do around these kids. They will mimic that shit, and they will definitely start doing that. Blackout, what's going on, my guy? Again, it's not fair that some of these kids are getting wrapped up in shit that they don't need to be wrapped up in, and especially when they're young. Now, again, God forbid, now even if something don't happen to your child on a physical note, what happens if your child decide to be with the wrong group of people and get into some bullshit? Now they all get arrested. And now what happens if it's to a point where they ain't just going to send them home to you? They might end up keeping them and trying to charge them as adults. You ain't thinking about shit like that, you know? And then I sat here and had this conversation with somebody. I said, some of y'all wonder why the kids in this generation are not respecting the adults. Because guess what? They see some of you adults doing the same shit that they're doing right now. You ain't trying to set no boundaries. You ain't trying to set no goals, no realistic nothing. It's just let them be, let them live. All right, cool. You do give them some form of leniency, but in the same token, you still got to be there. You still got to make sure your children is not getting into shit that could get them messed up. Come on, then. You know, it don't make sense. It don't. Like I said, should be no reason why you got babies outside past 2, 3 in the morning when you know you live in an area where shit could get popping. Like in New York City, prime example. I'm not saying all parents, no, because there are some parents who actually go by and live by the old codes when they was coming up. If they parents didn't have them out all hours of the night, they ain't letting their kids be in out all hours of the night. Not unless we coming back from a family function or something like that, and we coming back late. Like if you went out to Six Flags or Donny Park or something along those lines, and y'all might be coming back late. Okay, cool. That's a good excuse because you're all coming back together. But there ain't no way in the hell you gonna tell me you parents are either still sitting in the house or you out and about wherever you out and about at trying to live your second childhood and your kids is out here doing the utmost. Like I said last night, these kids is out here trying to mess around and vandalize a damn vending machine. Like how bad could it be that this is the things they come into? There ain't nothing else better you could be doing. Shoot. And that's the sad part about it. Again, there's certain things that are just not being implemented. You know, start getting your children involved in certain activities if you feel like you're not going to be bothered. You know, and that's sad. That is sad though, Blackout, because again, you don't care what the hell happens to your kid, then why bring more kids into the world if you ain't going to be prepared or if you're not going to be responsible? I had this whole live a while back about that. You're not going to be responsible for taking care of a life, then why keep bringing life into the world? What are you teaching them? What are you trying to set them up for? Are you trying to set them up for greatness or are you trying to set them up for failure? If you set them up for failure and something happens, you can't cry, mope, point the finger, and then try to hit that, oh, my baby this and my baby that. No, you didn't care about your baby. Because if you cared about your baby, if you cared about your future, you wouldn't have been letting shit happen. You would be checking shit and putting shit in motion the way you're supposed to. Period. Should be no reason why. Prime example. I just talked about this the other day. Didn't 16s get arrested for trying to subway surf? Like, there's dangerous things happening right now. And then your kids is putting themselves in dangerous positions. Like last night when I told them kids to leave that damn vending machine alone, one or two of them said something smarter than they breath. But when I said say it louder so I could hear you, they shut up. And then they kept looking. They kept looking forward. Then they tried to come back and seen that I was sitting there, had their heads down, they didn't want to make no eye contact. Yeah. Stop teaching your kids to be disrespectful. Teach your kids some manners and some respect. Because respect and manners will get you longer living time than being disrespectful. Because you telling somebody SMD, especially a grown person, that person might decide, you know what, suck on this. And then what you gonna do then? You gotta remember, there's some people that's not wrapped too tight in their head. So it doesn't matter who it is. You say or do something that they feel disrespectful, that could be over for your ass. That's just crazy, man. Like last night, I heard one of them say SMD, and then the other one said, I'm doing this, fat motherfucker. Say that loud enough so I can hear you, bitch. And them niggas got quiet. Yeah, like I said, and this is something that I've always seen. A lot of y'all think you're tough until somebody call you out. And it could be that one person called you out. It don't need to be a group of people calling y'all out. I called out at least 6 of them motherfuckers last night. Ain't none of them niggas say nothing. When they came back up and they looked and thought they was going to do something, they realized I was still sitting there. They kept it pushing. Hustle, what's going on? You know, that's what I'm saying. Some of y'all need to get your kids in check. Teach them some respect. Teach them balances. Teach them dignity and integrity. Because when it's all said and done, all that shit they doing right now is going to lead them to an early grave or have them as another fucking number in the system. And that's the crazy part. Again, not showing no respect. It ain't fair. Because there's going to be people that don't tolerate disrespect at all. And they going to let you know. And they going to humble your ass. And when they do, guess what? But you going, oh, I'm going to get my parents. I'm going to get my cousins. I'm going to get my family. Your family should get involved in no bullshit because you decide to run your mouth or you decide to do something. I can remember one night somebody got poked out here. I told y'all that night they was trying to jump this homeless man. That man poked one of them because you heard one of them screaming like a little bitch. I bet you they ain't going to do that shit no more. That's another thing. Y'all better teach these kids to keep their hands to themselves. Stop being disrespectful on all levels, not just to their own peers, but stop being disrespectful towards adults. Because some people are not going to tolerate the bullshit. It doesn't matter if you're in a group or not. Some people are going to stand on business, man. You know, because here it is. I'm on the phone talking with somebody. You know, I'm talking with one of my good friends. And even they was like, well, what the hell is all that noise? And when I turned around and looked, these little motherfuckers is trying to really shake up a vending machine. Like, are you serious? What was you trying to get something out the vending machine, or you just wanted to do it because it was there? It was quiet damn near the whole night to that point. Shouldn't nobody have to deal with that shit. Your kids should be home at a certain time, period. If they ain't 18 and over, if they ain't working, if they ain't part of some form of sports program, or if they ain't doing something that's constructive with their life where they would be coming home late, they need to be their asses indoors and make sure that they are where they need to be at. If they telling you they going to a friend house and then they end up elsewhere, guess what's going to happen? That's why I said when it's all said and done, the community and the village, that shit is almost ceasing to exist right now. The difference is between some of us that came up in a certain era, we had a community that cared about us. We had a village that cared about us. Even the ones that didn't have parents, even the ones that didn't have immediate family raising them. Guess what? The village was raising them. They always had people they could look up to. They always had people they could come to and talk to. And then you also had people that was building them up. It's like we ain't doing that shit no more. And like I said, once I said what I said last night, they got quiet. They ain't repeat nothing that they said. So that's how you know this is the fake toughness right there. And again, some of y'all are only tough in numbers. And I'm gonna say that even for some of y'all adults. You're only tough in numbers. When a person catch you one-on-one and you ain't got that same energy, we already know what it is. That was just like I said, one night in particular, I was at work. A group of kids was trying to get in the area where we was building something new. So they trying to get in the construction area. Now, the way the gate was, had this boy really got in there, he could have fell and hurt himself because part of that street was dug up. So you don't know if you would have fell into some rebar or if you would have fell into something and God forbid hurt yourself or worse. Juice, baby. Yeah, pride is a bitch. Like for real, blackout. And that's what some people fail to realize. Yo, that pride right there will set you up for all the fucking downfalls. Excuse my language, y'all. But it will. It will set you up for all the damn downfalls. Stop thinking that you big and bad because there's always going to be somebody bigger and badder. Stop underestimating people because guess what? Those people you underestimating will turn around and fuck your world up. It's unfair. It really is unfair. You know, it don't make sense. It's like some of y'all really don't care until something bad happens. Then now it was something you care. No, you should have been caring well before the situation. Just like I said last night. Who's to say if they didn't get into another confrontation or situation with somebody while they was going home? And it could have got bad. You know, again, if you claim that you love your kids, if you claim that you would do anything for your kids, then start doing the right things by them. Start making sure that they are home on time. Start making sure that they're at the places that they say they're going to be at. And don't just sit here and just listen. No, you sit back and have some watchful eyes and ears too. Yo, you see my child out here at a certain time, let me know. Listen, my friends, my kids said they supposed to be with this one. If you see them out here past a certain time, send their asses home or send their asses to where they need to be at. This way you can avoid some of that trauma. Now again, you're going to be some of them who are going to slip through the cracks because if they don't have nobody to lead them, nobody to guide them, the streets is going to be their guide. Like I said, there's some situations where these kids have lost their lives in the streets because again, they going by street codes. They going by things that they know. Remember this old saying too, for some of y'all that need to hear it. You live by that gun, you die by that gun. So if you want to be out here living this street life and this thug life like you claim, just know what comes with that. And if you out here doing the worst type of things, especially towards your own people, at some point that karma will come back to collect. Because you're not just going to be getting away with everything and thinking it's just going to be cool. Nah. You're going to have situations where, guess what? It's going to be bad. And again, that pride will be a killer to a lot of y'all. You want to be prideful? Take pride in knowing that you're raising your kids right. Take pride in knowing that you're setting the boundaries and doing what's necessary. It's important. You want to hear less stories about these kids being locked up or being killed? Start doing what's right. Same thing like I was saying the other day. Teaching your kids not to be bullies and teaching your kids not to keep provoking and poking something. Because like I said, some instances, the people that they're picking on, they might end up doing harm to themselves just because they can't take all the shit that's happened. And then what's going to happen? That blood is going to be on your hands. That situation is going to be on y'all because you're not setting the rules and the boundaries the way you're supposed to. Or if that person decide they going to wild out and they going to take everybody out, including themselves, guess what's going to happen? Another situation that's going to be on the news, man. Something that don't need to be on the news. Again, teach your kids what you need to teach them. Teach them about indifferences. Teach them about bullying. Teach them about not being bullies.
Teach them to fight when you need to fight. Fight when it's necessary. Don't fight just because you feel you can fight, and don't fight just because you think you can get away with it. When it's all said and done, guess what? The things your kids are doing, it'll come back, and it's going to come back hard. You got some people right now who wish they would have did a little better with their kids. Their kids is probably locked up alone, and there's no time you can get back. Like I said, you can't get time back. You can't rewind time. You can't try to avoid certain things. It's already done. You know, prime example. If your kid is out here trying to rob everybody and do everything else, especially in a place where they you know how they say it, you never shit where you eat at. But if they doing that, guess what's gonna happen? At some point, they're gonna get their karma. I knew a couple people out here that got their karma just by that. You out here trying to do certain things. You think that because you got the gun, you think just because you might be with a clique, you think that ain't nothing gonna happen to you. You invincible, and then shit happens. Yeah, but you got people right now, bro, that's not doing that. You know, you do have people out here who are weak, and not saying that they weak mentally. They just could be weak overall. You know, you picking on somebody just because you think you got the advantage. You'll be surprised that someday you try to pick on that wrong person, or you try to pick on that person because of whatever, and that person ends up turning your lights out, or that person ends up putting you on your pockets. What you gonna do then? You know, prime example with that girl that stabbed up the 16-year-old, right? I stood on what I stood on. A lot of her karma is going to come back to bite her when she hit that big house. Because again, you just wasted a portion of your life now, and you probably might really do life. It ain't no 25. You might actually do the whole life. Because again, you was picking and provoking with this person for the longest, and they wasn't bothering you. You was picking and provoking with this person just because. And then you decide to take it a step further. So all that karma is going to come back one way or another, man. Oh no, I know, bro. I know where you're going with it, but it's just sad. You know, again, you should be taking the time out to make sure your kids is in the best light, making sure that your kids is not in a situation that they can't get out of, and that you got to get them out of. Because some of y'all are not prepared mentally for the repercussions. You think you really want to be hugging your kids from a jail cell or kissing your kids goodbye in the coffin? No, those are the worst feelings in the world for a parent, guardian, anything. See, me as a guardian, raising my brother, I made sure that regardless to what, my brother was straight all around the board. If I had to be up at PTAs and all that other shit, so be it. If I had to come do whatever, if I had to just even come and just check up and make sure everything was straight overall, so be it. That's what a lot of y'all should be doing. Some of y'all not even caring if your kids graduate or not. Some of your kids probably can't read past a certain level. You ain't even trying to help them. So again, what is the sense of bringing life into the world if you're not going to be responsible for that life? Come on, man. And I believe that some people just don't deserve to be parents because look at what the fuck we get. Look at some of the shit that's being produced right now. Kids not being taken care of. Kids not having the proper things they should have. Kids being in the business of adults when they shouldn't be in the business of adults. Kids getting into adult things when they should be worried about trying to get educated and graduate school. That's another thing some of y'all need to start teaching your kids before they get to a certain age. Teach them the real life lessons about the birds and the bees. So this way, in some instances, you could avoid what they say teen pregnancy. When you just not saying nothing to your kids and allowing your kids to experience life without some form of guidance, you're going to find out. And some of y'all will end up being grandparents before you even turn 40 or 41 years old. How does that work? Shit, I know some people out there like that. You ain't looking out, or you ain't looking after your kids, and look, now your kid's pregnant. You about to be a grandparent before time. Make that make sense? Come on now, man. Teach these young kings and queens that there's a lot to offer in life, and they have a lot to offer and to give. Don't just sit back and let their talents and their skills waste for nothing. And it's sad because some of these kids had to go to jail to find out this is what they was good at. But it's already too late. You're in the system. And if you're lucky to get out, you're gonna be old or you're gonna be in your 40s. Some of you might be in your 50s before you get out. Shouldn't take these kids to get locked up or lose a close friend or lose their own life just for it to be something, just for it to be something. No, you gotta give it a balance. Point blank, period. You have to give it a balance. Like I said last night, that shit was funny to me because when I said repeat what you just said and say it louder, they got quiet, crickets. Yeah, because they already knew. They already knew what it was. And again, teach them respect, teach them manners. Teach them how to be their own person. Teach them how to lead, if anything. Be a leader in your own sense. Stop being a follower. Stop following behind the nonsense that could get you locked up or worse. It's sad. Like I said, with that girl that got stabbed, that's sad because 16 years old, ain't even fully get a chance to live life. Who knows what that girl could have been in life? Whatever she was striving for, whatever she was trying to strive for, it got cut short. And how is that fucking good for anybody? Again, you better teach your kids there's things in life that once you do that, there is no coming back from that. God forbid you take somebody's life, you can't give that person back their life. And what you doing is destroying two families. You're destroying your family because your ass is locked up, and you destroying the family of the victim. Some of y'all act like you don't want to hear it, but fuck it, you gonna hear it today. Because this is the problem now. You got too many people who want to be soft spoken when it comes to certain issues. Me, I'm always gonna keep it raw and uncut because this is my view and opinion on it. It's sad that the community in the village is not thinking to say, let's try to set better examples, or let's try to see what we can do to help those who actually want to be helped. Some of these people want to be helped, but as long as they're around people that's peer pressuring them to doing things, or the minute they around people where they feel like they have to keep doing something just to be accepted, it's never going to get better. Teach your kids about the dangers of peer pressure. That's prime example. Like those kids that just got arrested for the subway surfing. If they didn't get arrested, God forbid, they could have got hurt. And it'd have been all six of them sitting in a coffin. And that's not nothing to play with. Again, you got one life in this shell of a body. And it's not saying that life is over when you're gone, because it's not. I don't believe it. But in the same token, it ain't gonna mean much when you can't do or you can't be there for those who you need to be there for. Starting to get real crucial nowadays. And I wish some people would really take that into consideration. You know, it's just sad, man. Sad that the world that we live in is just crumbling. We already got enough that we have to deal with right now. Again, some people are losing out on things that was helping them because of all the politics going on. Some people are trying to gain, but how can you gain when you have people that only want to destroy shit? That's what I'm saying. Give your children better opportunities and a better mind space to know that, look, despite whatever, got to do better. And you can't allow people to hold you back. Make sure your kids are not around people who are doing just that. Make sure they around reputable kids or reputable teams who actually have something going. You need to teach them about a lot. Everything, even down to the simplest thing like jealousy. Because even that jealousy is a type of pride that'll get people hurt. You know? Angela, baby. Y'all already know if y'all just tuned in, hit the like button. And if y'all new to the channel, like, share, comment, and subscribe. But you know, it's sad because even when somebody come to you and hit you with some real facts, you'll try to overlook it or downplay it like, oh, it's nothing. No, it is something. Because again, when your child ends up getting hurt, or when your child ends up not being here, or when your child, God forbid, ends up being locked up for life and never gonna see the light of day again, what you gonna say then? Again, all of that is gonna fall on you, the parent. It ain't just gonna fall on the kid, it's gonna fall on the parent. Because if you're not teaching your kids nothing, who's teaching your kids? If you're going to allow the streets, if you're going to allow social media, if you're going to allow everything else to raise your kids but you, then you shouldn't reproduce no more kids. Because the only thing you're going to do is keep the repeated cycle going. At some point, we want to break these cycles, man. We really do. You want to break these cycles. Because why should it be a cycle of destruction when it could be a cycle of progression and growth? That's what I'm saying. Some of y'all don't want to see your kids doing better. Some of y'all don't want to make sure that they're getting into the right path. Again, yeah, when they get into adulthood, they're going to make their own decisions on what they're going to do. But while they under your roof, they should be following your rules and regulations. Point blank. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Because I could go and do this same type of segment on another day and guarantee you half of the parents that I'll come across will tell you the same thing. As long as you up under my roof, you're going to follow my rules. If you feel like you can't do so, when you leave out that door, you better try to find whatever you can find and see how life is going to treat you outside of these doors. See how life is going to treat you when you don't have that support. And no, I'm not saying to kick your kids out, but give them a stern lesson. You know, respect starts from home. What your kids learn, it starts from home. And if you ain't teaching them much, if you ain't showing them much, they ain't gonna want to do much or be much in life. And that's not the way it should be. It's not. Again, we know it's always gonna be some that fall through the cracks because they are already in a situation where, you know, they don't have no real guidance. They don't have no real anything. And I can understand that. You know, and it's sad even in those situations because you never knew how much they could offer. Shoot, they could have been these future lawyers and future congressmen and future politicians and future builders and architects. There's so many damn parameters for them to, you know, to grow and succeed in life. But if you ain't giving them that blueprint, if you're not showing them the blueprint, if you're not trying to take your time to carefully do so, what you expect to happen? That's like prime example. If your kids don't know how to read, you supposed to be that main one trying to help them read, help them do math, help them do whatever. And even if you're having a problem, guess what? I knew one or two people who they couldn't read well, but they'd be damned if their kids wasn't going to be able to read. And guess what? They even took certain things with their kids. Come on, we're going to learn this together. We're going to do this together. That's how it should be. You know, show your kids that you got their backs. Show your kids that you're going to support them when they're doing the right things. But also let them know when they do the wrong things, they need to be held accountable as well, too. Show them responsibility and accountability on all levels. You know, that's really about it. Once you get to that mind state, once you get to that, things will start looking up a little bit more. You know, again, you can't save everybody. I know that. But you can at least try to save those who are willing to be saved, or you can save those who are willing to try to make that change. But again, for you parents, it does start with you. What are you teaching your kids? What values are you really teaching them? And if you ain't teaching them the simple things like, again, morals and respect, they ain't gonna get far. Sorry to say it that way. But they will not get far in life with being disrespectful, being too prideful, and just allowing themselves to destroy themselves. Like I said, I feel like, these young ones shouldn't be worried about smoking weed and drinking, and some of these kids are even doing the hard drugs now. That shouldn't be something that's only in their life. Show them something outside of that. Show them that there's more than life than just getting inebriated all the time. Show them something better. Once you get to that side of everything, guess what? Certain things will start changing and progressing right. When you know your kids need help in certain scenarios, you try to help them the best way possible. And if you can't help them, try to get somebody that can help. It's not that hard to do. But again, pride will be our biggest downfall to a degree. We too prideful. We don't want people to know that we need help. We don't want people to think that we can't handle things. We don't want people to think this. We don't want people to think that. Should it matter what the fuck anybody else thinks? No. What should matter is I want to make sure that, they don't fall down this wrong path. I want to make sure that they get the best out of life while they are still here. I want to make sure that they're good while I'm still on this earth. It's just real raps, man. And people hate to hear the truth. That's the problem. You got people that's willing to do whatever and argue with you or try to argue with you. That's because they don't want to hear the truth. Because they know that truth is going to sting, number one. And they know that truth is definitely going to open up their eyes to a lot of different things. You know, teach them again about peer pressure. If your kids feel uncomfortable doing certain things, you need to let them know. If you ever feel uncomfortable doing certain things, or if you're uncomfortable, especially hanging around certain ones, you don't necessarily got to do what they're doing. If you feel that's something you don't want to do, you don't have to do. Be your own person. Again, stop being a follower. And if you're going to follow something that's going to lead you to something great. Follow something that's going to make you feel good. Follow something that's not going to put you under the jail or in the grave. Learn to be your own person. Learn to be unique. Stop trying to be carbon copies of. Be yourself. Love yourself. And believe in yourself. That's something that should be taught. But apparently is not being taught to some degree. And the ones that are teaching it, the ones that are doing whatever, my applause go to you, and keep doing what you're doing as parents. You're being great at what you're doing. And again, you're showing that it could be done. Give a balance when it's needed. No doubt appreciate you, serious baby. Welcome back, baby. For those that might be on the road, for those that might be tuning in, make sure y'all keeping yourself safe on the road or whatever you're doing. Just be aware of your surroundings. I think that's important. It's important to try to build structure and make sure that everything is where it needs to be at. Because again, when it's all said and done, you are the ones that are going to be held responsible. And in some cases, you're going to be held responsible to where your ass is going to be locked up. Because guess what? You can't sit here and allow your kids to be out and about, being a menace to society, and then you not checking it. You not stopping what you need to stop. It's unfair. Very unfair because, again, you're not giving them a chance at life. You're not giving them a chance to be something greater than what they are right now. Your goal is just saying, well, let them find out the hard way. Let them find out on their own. Some things they are going to have to find out on their own. But then there's other things that you're still gonna have to be a part of. You're still gonna have to make the right efforts, and you're still gonna have to be, very vigilant and very observant. You know, like how could you be observant knowing that your kid is out here doing something, but then when your kid get wrapped up, you want to sit here and say, "Oh, my baby this, my baby didn't do this, my baby don't get into this." How would you know if you ain't paying your damn kids no attention? Oh, my child would never do this. How would you know if you're not paying attention? That's a question. How would you know if you're not paying them any attention? If you're not being active in their lives the way you're supposed to be as a parent? You can't half-ass parent the minute the kids come into play. No, you gotta be on all damn cylinders and parameters ready to go. But when you decide that you want to live your second childhood, when you decide that your life is more important than your kids' lives, guess what's gonna happen when it comes to your kids? They're gonna suffer. And why should you allow your child to suffer? But you claim that you love them. If you really love your children like you say you do, try to show them the best things possible in life and try to be as active as you can in their lives. And that's real life. So I could really say today, you don't want to see certain things happen to these young ones, but in the same token, it's sad to say that in certain instances, no matter what you say, no matter what you try to implement, some people are just not going to care. You can't tell me how to raise my kids. You can't tell me this. No, you're right. I can't tell you how to raise your kids, but I can give you some advice on how to keep your kids here longer, keep your kids from behind bars, or keep your kids from going to an early grade. And you could do the same thing as well too. Be active in what they're doing. Make sure that they're not doing things that again would be a downfall to them and you. And before I do get up out of here, because I'm gonna revisit this conversation. I wasn't gonna hold y'all all afternoon, but I felt like I needed to say this shit today. And I'm gonna revisit this conversation definitely. As a matter of fact, I was supposed to do that. Let me drop this link just in case anybody want to chime in on this topic right here. It's like I said, it's always good to get different views and opinions on how we could try to make things better or how we could try to shape things for the better. But I would say this again for some of y'all that need to hear this shit. How would you know what your kids are doing? How would you know your kids don't do things if you're not paying them attention? How you know your kid ain't out here being a menace to society? How you know your kids ain't out here following the wrong situation? How you know if your kid ain't joining the gang? So on and so forth. How would you know if you're not paying close attention to them? That's something that you should ask yourself right now. How would you know if you're not being there and you're not being a solid parent overall? I don't care if you're a single parent, if you're a two-parent home. How would you know what your kids are getting into? How would you know if your kids are doing good or bad if you're not paying them any attention? That's the question. I guarantee you, in some instances, the answers you get is mind-boggling. But then you're gonna have those who know what their kids are getting into. Why? Because again, they are still monitoring their kids, even if they're working. Look, if you see my kid out here at a certain time, or if you see my kid get wrapped up in something, let me know. The community got to start being a community again. The village is going to have to start strengthening up again, from the elders even down to the ones that need to be responsible. Got to get back to that. Because tired of hearing stories about, oh, my baby wasn't doing this, my baby wasn't doing that. You wouldn't have known. Because if you'd have known, your child wouldn't be in a situation at the end. Just like I was saying last night. Boy, you know, those same kids I sat here and said something to, they could have messed around and got themselves into a situation. You know, and that's what I'm saying. It's time for y'all to start setting boundaries and start setting rules and regulations again. You know, and not saying you're supposed to rule your household with an iron fist, but you are supposed to have some form of checks and balances, especially if you want the best for them. And like I said again, if you don't want the best for them, you're already showing that you didn't care in the first place. So when something does happen, don't cry about it later. Don't sit here and look for pity and support because you didn't show that support to the ones that mattered the most. Y'all should be happy and blessed that you're able to bring kids into the world because there are some people who never get a chance to, and there's some people who never got a chance to because their lives was tucked in or their lives were gone before time. So you better think about that as well. Just because you bring life into the world, that doesn't mean you don't be responsible. You bring life into the world, you take all the time you need to take to make sure that they're good. Teach them what you need to teach them. Teach them the life skills that they're going to need for the future, like reading and writing. Teach them about, again, morals, respect, dignity, all of that. Because these things play hand in hand. You know, and again, you hate that you have these type of convos, but sometimes you have to. Because apparently the message is not being clear. And again, if you want the best for your young ones, you got to be willing to do what's necessary. Again, you have to be a part of their growth and development. You can't just half-ass it, and you can't wing it neither. You either gonna fully be there, you gonna do what's necessary, or watch them suffer and burn. And I'm sorry I sounded like that. I might have sounded like I was a little bit angry and upset, but I kind of am. Because you don't know what some of these people have to offer in life, and they don't even know what they have to offer in life because they're not getting the proper guidance. And at some point, that got to stop. The irresponsibility, the just letting everybody else raise your children and not you, that shit got to stop. Again, teach them about the dangers of peer pressure. Teach them about the dangers of not having respect and dignity as well too. Because it'd be your luck your kid decide to say something disrespectful to the wrong person, and that could be the last time your child is on this earth. And teach them that those three words I was saying about earlier, those three words are getting people beat up or worse now more than ever. There ain't gonna be too many people that's gonna tolerate the disrespect. And some people will definitely let it be known. So get on board with your kids. You know, make sure everything is where it need to be at. And if you need the help, that don't make you less of a parent and that don't make you less of a human being. That just means you care enough for your kid to try to make something happen. But I'm gonna revisit this conversation. Like I said, the link is still there in case anybody want to chime in. But if not, I'm not gonna hold y'all. I still got a couple things I gotta do before I get to the plantation tonight. But I appreciate everybody that tuned in this afternoon. Definitely appreciate everybody that listened. Appreciate everybody that was a part of this conversation. Appreciate everybody that's been a part of the build, still becoming a part of the build. And yes, we still going to have these great topics and convos because it's needed right now. You know, got to start dealing with real life topics. Start dealing with real life shit. Everything else is just a distraction. And some of y'all, those distractions are going to be your downfalls because you're too focused on the wrong things. Focus on what matters the most. And if you have a family, your family should be the most important thing. Making sure that they get from point A to point B. Your kids should definitely be on that same accord. Make sure that they getting from point A to point B. And for those celebrating birthdays this week, going into this weekend, since I can't give you the birthday drop like I always do, I got something for you. I got something for you. Hopefully, y'all enjoy your birthday weekends. Hopefully, y'all stay blessed. Another year, another blessing around the sun. Try to make the best out of everything. You know, give your praises where it's due. Keep creating memories. But most importantly, just enjoy yourselves. You know, live every moment to the fullest. Today was definitely a great conversation. And again, I'm going to revisit this. And as a matter of fact, I could be back tomorrow. Tomorrow, y'all might get a beach live. You might. You never know. You never know. But, again, hopefully somebody did get something out of this. And hopefully this message is being shared out. You know, when people try to say the dumbest shit in their mouths, like, oh, how would you know you don't have kids? I raised one. I was a legal guardian for one for the longest. Don't ever get that shit twisted because that's still being a parent. That's still being a guardian over somebody that needs it. And I did pretty well because mine is successful. Mine is actually in school and actually doing other things outside of just working. I did what was necessary when my moms couldn't do it. So for anybody that feels the type of way about what I just said, stick it in your pipes and smoke it. Because a guardian is still a parent nonetheless. So for those that are doing everything right, parent wise, guardian wise, continue to keep doing so. Appreciate you, serious baby. It should be all right. Um, it should be all right tonight because from what I'm looking at right now, it should be a quiet night tonight too. So, and again, for those who need to hear this again, think about what was said today. You can't sit here and honestly say that you know what your kids are or know what your kids are getting into when you're not paying them any attention. Start paying more attention to your kids. For the people in the villages, the people in the communities, start doing the right things. When you know you have to check certain things, you check it, regardless to what. Because again, it's about setting a boundary and setting a standard. How can we set any real standards when we're not paying attention to those who are supposed to be the future. How can you expect your kids to get past or live past certain ages when you're not giving them the blueprint? Point blank. Appreciate you for that series, baby. But see, I ain't had no choice because I'd be damned if I would have let my brother be a victim of the streets or a victim of anything. I wanted to make sure I took over what needed to be took over. My mom started the job and I had to finish it. But it turned out good. Like I said, successful in school, successful in working, and about to do something else. Oh, and I would say that for those parents who need to hear that. Your kids are young and might be interested in certain programs, get them enrolled in it. You never know what the situation could turn out for them. It could be something great for everybody around. So just do what's necessary. You know, again, don't sit here and say my baby this and my baby wouldn't do this and my baby never did this when you're not paying attention to them. It's time for y'all to start really checking your kids and start doing what's necessary for them. Some of y'all claim y'all want the best, but you're not showing them the best. How does that work? And how will that work if you're not willing to take the time out to do what's necessary? If you're not willing to really be a 24/7 parent, you can't raise your kids for 5 hours out the day. You can't raise your kid for an hour out the day. 24/7, 365. Don't forget that part. And if you're not going to be responsible, guess what? Anybody that you bring into the world, they're going to suffer, just like the first one will. Make sure that your firstborns and your lastborns are doing everything necessary. You know, it's about that time. It's time for growth and change, not self-destruction. But again, appreciate everybody that's been part of the build, still becoming a part of the build, you know. And again, hopefully this is getting shared out. You know, we definitely need to start having more of these talks. And I'm gonna say this for some people that need to hear this too, because apparently some people don't get the message. It shouldn't take a celebrity. It shouldn't take a high name or a household name for some of y'all to try to get it together. When the normal, regular 9 to 5 Joes or the people that are not big names are telling you something, take it for what it is. Take strides. Take the advice that's being given. Because again, sometimes the best advice comes for those who you might not know. Some of the best advice will come from people who are just regular like me and you. Don't dismiss it and definitely don't overlook it. You know, again, take the time to do what's necessary. The goal is to make sure that they are in a proper mind space so they could grow into their adult years, so they could be successful, so they could continue to keep the progress going, keep the generational wealth and everything else going as well too. You know, but yeah, I hope all of y'all enjoy the rest of your afternoons, evenings, and happy Friday to all you future babies. I still need my lottery numbers for tomorrow today, and I'm gonna be looking for some of y'all. I appreciate everybody that's been a part of the conversation. And again, I see some of y'all running around these streets. I could be live tomorrow. If I am, I'll be live out and about. So, you know, again, hopefully somebody got something out of this, and hopefully this has changed somebody or has given somebody some hope and inspiration. 'Cause that's what I'm about right now. Not just having these conversations, but hoping that people do get some hope and also get some motivation. You know, times are definitely changing, but just because times are changing, that doesn't mean everything should change with it. No, there's still some things that are gonna have to remain in order for the success and the growth to be something. Lottery numbers 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I need lottery numbers I appreciate. But yeah, let me get up out of here, y'all. If y'all was new to the channel, like, share, comment, and subscribe. Shout out to the replay game. Shout out to the Shadow Mafia and the Shadow Babies. Y'all know what it is, baby. For everybody that was in attendance today, y'all already know that love is love and it'll be reciprocated as such. I don't know how to be fake. All I can do is give you real. That's all I'm gonna do is give you real topics and real bills. And yeah, hopefully y'all enjoy the rest of your evenings. And don't worry, some of y'all, I'm looking at your food shorts. I'm definitely getting some ideas for tonight. So, you know. But I'll see y'all around definitely tomorrow. And definitely might be on the beach. Never know. Never know. But y'all stay safe. Keep that third eye open. And until the next live, we out of here. Peace and blessings.